This is the Fairline Squadron 50, and it sits pretty squarely in the middle of Fairline's range, and it encompasses everything that has brought this British brand such long-lasting success. However, competition in this very crowded sector is strong, so can the Squaddy cut it? Well, we're going to find out by first seeing what it's like to drive. I'm Jack Haynes, welcome to YachtBuyer. We picked up the boat from Swanwick Marina, which is at the top of the River Hamble in Southampton. The nice thing about having the sort of 40-minute bimble downriver out to sea is that A, it lets all the fluids get moving around the engine and they come up to heat nice and slowly, but also it's given me a chance to get to know the boat well before we get out to sea. Now, it's IPS only, the Squadron 50. You have IPS 650, which is 480 horsepower each. You have IPS 700, which is 550 horsepower each. Whichever you choose, of course, you get joystick control. But one nice thing about this spec of this boat is that you have a bow thruster as standard. Now, some IPS boats don't have that because there's a feeling that you have joystick control. Why do you need the bow thruster? But from experience, especially in the Mediterranean where you may be mooring stern to, just having that bit of control over the bow is really useful. You twist the joystick, that kicks the stern, of course. Sometimes that can affect the bow as well, and you may just want to control the bow separately. So I found that that's a really useful additional feature. But of course, most boats feel good at 6 knots. Let's find out what it's like when we get up to speed. Right, we're up to speed now, pulling 3,000 RPM and doing 20 knots. And immediately you appreciate the ergonomics of this helm. They're really good. Everything's nice and close. You have full adjustment on this bench. Okay, you can't independently move the navigator seat, so they're going to be coming with you, but at least you have some fore and aft movement. You also have a fully adjustable steering wheel, so you can put that sort of as high or low as you want. I like it quite low, so it's nice and close to the throttles, which themselves are out on a plinth. So it all falls really easy to hand, as does the joystick. And I like the fact that the MFD isn't marooned at the top of the dash. It's down to my right here, opposite the navigator, which of course makes complete sense, but also close enough that I can easily interact with it as the skipper. I actually have my own screen right in front of me here, the smaller Volvo Penta screen, which has the same functionality minus radar, so you can have the chart on there if you want. Now, unless the wheel's completely straight, it does get obscured, but you can turn the wheel, have a quick glance, interact with it, and you do have analog gauges at the top of the dash, which I really like for things like temperatures, fuel level, RPM. You can just glance at those, they're near the compass. You don't have to delve into the menus too much. So yeah, it's a comfortable place to drive. The boat is also really sweet when it comes to handling. It's light, IPS style, but doesn't feel too detached. Does react really nicely, so if you want to steer around the waves, if it's rougher than it is today, it's very calm today. If you're in a following sea, for example, and you want to find the cleanest path through the waves, then the boat would really allow you to do that. But then it doesn't ponder either. It sits nice and straight when you just want to settle down and let it cover up the miles. Now, this has got the smaller of the two IPS engine options. It's got IPS 650, which is 480 horsepower per side, and that is overwhelmingly the most popular choice on this boat, whether that's because it's £40,000 less than the larger IPS 700s and people want to put that money towards something like the stabiliser, which is obviously a desirable option, but it's £70,000. I don't know, but people are very happy with this engine setup. We're not quite getting the top speed we should be getting today. It should be around 30 knots and we're topping out at 25. This boat has been sat in the water for a while though, so it's probably got a fair bit of growth on it, which will be affecting the top speed. Either way, you settle down at 22 knots, you can cover about 200 nautical miles at that pace. Really does feel like a nice natural cruising speed. So life is good from the upper helm. Let's see what it's like to drive from downstairs. Well, the physical layout of the dashboard is identical to upstairs, which is great because everything's familiar, it's all in the same place. But the seating position isn't quite as good, despite having the sliding adjustment and the adjustable wheel. As you can see, I'm just having to perch on the edge of the seat a bit. A, to be closer to the dash, and B, because the windscreen's quite shallow, someone of my height, I'm struggling just to see through it clearly without dipping my head a bit. So that's a little bit uncomfortable, and this big area of headlining here is just screaming out for a glass hatch to bring some natural light in and again just improve the view. However, it is nice and quiet down here. That's another benefit of IPS. They're tucked a long way back in the hull, there's lots of insulation obviously, so a cruising speed of 22 knots, you're looking at just over 70 decibels, so it shouldn't be too tiresome on longer journeys. One thing the Squadron 50 doesn't have, unlike rivals such as the Absolute 47 Fly, is a side door at this helm. And that's a bit of a shame because that does really help, A, with ventilation and communication, but also letting the skipper easily get out of the side deck to help with crewing. You have got a small manual window here, so there's an element of ventilation and comms with the crew, but it's just not quite as good as having that direct access. So this area is absolutely fine. It's a nice place to drive the boat from, but I think you'll usually find any excuse to drive from the upper helm, which I think I'm going to do now. Let's start at the waterline, shall we? So back here you have a hydraulic bathing platform. It's got a lift capacity of 300 kilograms. This is obviously where you'll stow the tender. So you get something like a Williams 285 on here, no problem. Obviously that drops down into the water, tender floats off. Really easy way to get the tender on and off the boat. Something else you notice back here is how good the mooring gear is. So you have a good number of cleats. You have one up the top down there, and you have two down here, and actually these are pop-up ones. So you can pop those up. Means that you've got lots of different variety. If you need to spring across in the med, something like that, tie the fender off, that works really nicely. You also have access up both sides of the seating here, and actually this can be quite overcomplicated, the boarding gate, but it's really nice and simple on this boat. You just do that, it's on a gas ram, holds itself shut, open it like that. No lifting, no locking, nice and simple, works really well. And this is a very spacious cockpit area, lots and lots of headroom with this overhang. And one of the reasons it feels spacious is because there isn't a fixed table in here. Your table is freestanding, but it does have dedicated storage over here next to the steps. But if you don't need the table, it's nice to have this open deck space. It actually works really well, and you can bring up some directors' chairs opposite the table so more people can sit round and dine. And you do begin to notice the sort of Fairline quality. It does begin to stand out in this cockpit. You've got a really nice solid handhold overhead. Note how there's lighting built in to the treads here. That's a really, really nice effect. Now, if we head up onto the side decks, we can talk a bit about crewing. Well, the first thing you notice is just how thick this tow rail is. That's really nice and high, so your feet feel good and secure when you come up onto the deck itself. The guardrails are at a decent height, about sort of just above knee height for me. There's this rail up here as well, which naturally you grab onto. You could argue that actually another rail along here would be helpful to move along with, but actually these soon sort of come up to meet your hands and you can guide yourself forward up to the foredeck. Obviously really easy to hang fenders from up here, and there's 4 sets of cleats along here. You've got your cleats at the back, 2 midships cleats, and then obviously the ones right forward on the bow. And you notice here, this is the use of black colouring in the superstructure, just a bit of a visual trick to bring the height of the boat down when you look at it from profile. It does work really well. You notice the coach roof is actually very high, so again, you feel quite protected, but it does mean there's a bit of a step up to climb onto it. And then you have the sun pad arrangement, quite simple in comparison to some of its rivals, but for sunbathing space, obviously it works really nicely. You've got some cup holders down here as well, so your drinks don't spill when you're lying up here. Anchor locker is, of course, right forward. Now we can nip back to the cockpit. The decks are symmetrical, so it's much the same on this side. You can walk down really easily. You know, it's quite natural to put your feet down the deck without them getting caught on each other. And then it's an easy drop down into the cockpit, where you can check out the interior. So there is a bit of a step up into the saloon to create headroom in the cabin down below, and then another step up to this forward section of the saloon here. But you're immediately hit by, again, that Fairline quality, the woodwork. This has got the high gloss walnut as part of its premium pack, and it does look absolutely lovely. Really sets off the tone in this interior. Now, as standard, the boat comes with galley down. So if the galley downstairs, you have a dresser here. It's got a drinks cabinet. It's got a small fridge, which is in a great position there. Next to the cockpit, it's also where the television pops up from. Opposite, of course, you have your dinette. Now, this table is on an adjustable leg, so that drops down. Infill cushions here, and you can sleep 2 more people here. So if you have the 3 cabin option, you can sleep 8 people on board this boat. If we move forward adjacent to the helm, this is a nice spot because it works really well if the boat's stationary, or if you're going along, because you can sit facing forward, you have the view out the windscreen, you have a bit of ventilation from this side window. It's a nice use of space, and I like the fact that you've got handholds that blend in really nicely to the cabinetry. You know, they're not ugly, nice round corners so they don't hurt if you bang your legs on them, but they're there, and there's a banister here as well, so wherever you are, you can grab something to steady yourself out at sea. Now, onto the accommodation. So the layout is actually very flexible on this boat. This particular one has the most popular layout, which is to have the galley down and to have the bunk cabin to starboard. But for 15 grand, as an option, you can move the galley up onto the main deck if you find that more sociable. Equally, you don't have to have this. This is a £12,000 option, but it's proved popular because, well, extra sleeping space is a bonus. And also, do you really need a lower dinette on a boat that's got the saloon so close? Probably not. So yeah, this layout works really well. And there's some clever stuff going on forward as well. This VIP cabin is also incredibly flexible because it's standard. It has these scissor action double berths. So you can have them like this as twins if you have people in here who aren't a couple, or you know, if you want to separate after an argument in the middle of the night, or you can just simply pull them together and there you go. You've got an instant double bed. Works really nicely. And the other good thing is if you push them apart, you feel like you've got a bit more floor space because you can walk around a bit more easily, easy to get changed. This cabin's got some other nice touches too. Loads of storage. Again, you notice the woodwork and the grain of the woodwork. It looks really, really lovely, really glossy, high quality. You've got storage behind the door, you've got a hanging locker, and this cabin also has an ensuite. So you have a separate shower cubicle, toilet, but there's also the day head. So there's access there for other guests who want to use the toilet during the day. They're going to use that one. And the main event down here is, of course, the master cabin. On the way, it's worth pointing out though, you have really good cooling space on this boat. In fact, storage in general in the galley is very good, but you have proper domestic size freezer, fridge below it, and then really good, useful rack storage. So if you're going to be on board for a long time, this boat certainly has the storage capacity to cater for that. Anyway, onto the master. Couple of largest steps down and then a step down again to create what is for someone of about 6 foot full standing headroom here. Now the levels do change either side of the bed, so if I move up this side then I'm having to tuck my head, but you're probably going to be in bed there by this point, so you're sitting down is not so much of an issue. You can sit up in bed and read a book, no problem. You can delete this sofa and have more storage if you want, like you've got on that side. And again, you notice the finish, the quilted bed head, the backlighting, the proper lamps. It's all done really nicely. And this cabin, of course, has its own ensuite too. Now, from the very bottom of the boat, let's head up to the top, to the Flybridge. Right then, the top deck, nice and easy to get up here. It's nice to have this big rail here so you can easily help yourself up and round. And then it's dominated really by this aft dinette, which reaches all the way back round to the port side. Decent sized table here in the middle. See, that drops up and down, so you can put a sun pad there to create even more sunbathing space. There is no hardtop option on the Squadron 50, but you have this bimini. See, that unwraps, then you can have a nice bit of shade over here on particularly warm days. Wet bar, of course, has all the bits you'd expect. You've got your grill, sink, and well done Fairline. You can easily clean it and run all the grease and stuff into the sink. A lot of the time they're completely separate, which makes that really difficult. Cooling space is good. Got another isotherm fridge down here, ice maker. Yeah, you're pretty much good to go. It's not the most spacious Flybridge, but it's well designed. And if it is Flybridge space you're looking for, then you might want to consider something like the Galleon 500 Fly. If you want to watch my review of that boat, there's a link up there, and I put one in the description as well. Now, let's go and check out the engines. Both engine room space and engine room access are really good for a boat of this size. There are 2 access points through the cockpit hatch. There's a ladder you can drop in here, climb down here between the 2 engines, and there's a separate access point through the transom as well, which is even easier to get into. And once you're down here, the installation is super tidy. Really nice, neat runs of piping, electrical cables, all labelled as well, so you know what everything is and where everything runs to. And you'll notice the IPS pods are actually on jack shafts between the engines, and that's to improve the weight balance, so the engines are a bit further forward in the boat to keep it on a nice, even level. Engine options, very simple, both IPS, either these D6 IPS 650s, that's 6 cylinders, 5.5 litres, or you can have the larger D8s, they're 7.7 litres, 550 horsepower. These are proved the most popular, and they're nice because they're a bit more compact. They give you even more space to move around and check everything in this engine room. Now, on a boat of this size, the owner is most likely going to be doing the daily service checks, so having access to the fuel filters and the raw water strainers and being able to get to the generator easily is really important. So for a boat of this size, that sort of day-to-day stuff, really manageable. Now let's get them fired up and get back to base.
The base price for the 50 with twin 480 horsepower IPS 650s is £894,000 including VAT, and you'll pay £40,000 more for the larger IPS 700s which have 550 horsepower each. The premium pack is £165,000, which sounds a lot, but it includes most of the items that you want to create a turnkey package, such as rail thruster, air conditioning, a larger generator, teak throughout, a bimini and a Garmin navigation package. For £16,000 extra, you can have a crew cabin, but only with the smaller engines. As tested, this boat came in at £1.15 million, including VAT.
The Squadron 50 was originally launched in 2019, so it's feeling a little bit long in the tooth here and there, namely places like the Foredeck and the Lower Helm. However, Fairline has built over 200 of these hulls if you include the two sports cruiser variants built on the same platform, the Targa 50 GT and the Targa 50 Open. So the consistency of build is outstanding. The other thing I really like is that it doesn't feel intimidating if you're stepping up from a smaller boat to this. It's manageable and it's nice to crew. It's easy to control at slow speeds and it's very easy to drive at high speed, and the IPS really builds into that. So yes, the current crop of rivals, some of them do have greater interior volume and more inventive deck spaces, but as an all-round package, this is incredibly solid. Thank you very much for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Get yourself into the comments and let me know what you think about the boat. And remember to hit the like button and click subscribe and the notification icon so that you're always alerted when we upload a new video.